we've covered what happened in Kirby. We've covered what happened in Ireland. And now it's Wales's turn. Wales's turn to stand up to this outrageous tyranny against our people. The Welsh, the Irish, the English, the Scottish, we must forget our old grievances and we must work together as a unified people. Despite what the state tries to indoctrinate us with, to fight amongst each other, this sectarian nonsense, we've got to pull together. And it was great to see the protest in Llanelli. Hope I got that right. My son was born in the Gwent in Newport. My wife is from Newport. And it gave me great encouragement to see the Welsh people pushing back against this terrible situation we find ourselves in which we are being invaded, no doubt about it. And the government are imposing these hotels all around the country against the wishes of the local people. The local people don't want it. The local people don't want it anywhere it goes. So natural opposition is rising to it, and people are speaking out. People are pushing back. And in Wales, in Llanelli, we saw a flashpoint in which the people had had enough. And I'm going to bring in Joe now. So let's just hope this works. Bear with me. There we go, Joe. So let's have a look at this. Yeah, it worked. Hey, Joe, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. That's fantastic. I'm so happy that it worked first go. You might want to lower your camera a little bit if you can, but no worries if you can't. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Sorry. Yeah, go on.
Hats off to what you've been doing in Wales. It's great to see other people standing up and pushing back. Really important that we do that because it gives inspiration to others that we can do it and we have the right to do it and the law is on our side, and it really is. And it's only the state that is suppressing and oppressing our rights that pushes back against it. So, Joe, tell us what's going on in Wales at the moment and what you've been involved in.
Right, well, it's a long story, but I'll try and keep it down a bit, and just go to the basics. This hotel in Llanelli is owned by this company called Sterling Woodrow, and it's a big wedding venue, and it's a big part of the community. And they just, out of the blue, decided to go through Clear Springs, which is like Sturco, and they've basically handed the hotel over to the Home Office to fill it with migrants. Now, 100 people that work there have lost their jobs. There was no consultation with the local people. Even the two local MPs, Labour MPs, Lee Walters and Nia Griffiths, they're open border fanatics. But because they live just down the road from the hotel, they didn't want it there. That's the irony of that, is they're always at these refugee welcome protests. And because it was on their doorstep, they didn't want it, But anyway, they've laid off 100 staff, and in the early days, we were down there, because I don't live in Llanelli, I live about 20 minutes away, and I know a lot of people from there. So, and I make it my business in Wales to know what protests are going on with these hotels, and I've been to loads of them. And in the early days, there were 15, 20 of us outside there, but every car that was going past, beeping support. All the people, as we're walking at the street with our banners, they're coming out of their houses saying, nice one, nice one. And, clearly everybody supported us. Lefties were turning up, about 30 of them, but they're clearly bussed in from Swansea. They're not locals. There's maybe one or two locals with them. And it grew to about 50, 60 people. But we were saying, where's all the people? Why they're supporting us? Why aren't they stood here with us, But then last week, things have escalated. They moved this security firm in, which is veterans. Veterans are going to facilitate this. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah.
So they've moved a team of roided up veterans into the hotel. And basically, this is a unique situation with Llanelli because the entrance road to the hotel is owned by a few houses outside. So they've basically they've ordered these big rocks and these Harris fencing, and they've blocked the road. And they've said, if it's not going to be a hotel anymore, you're not having access. So they got builders there the other day to try and cut through this fencing. And then the police were called. The people who owned the road showed their deeds, and the police had to say, sorry, it's their road. If they don't want to use it.
The people who live on the road into the hotel, right, have denied access to the hotel because they own the road. Is that what's happened there?
That's right, yeah.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
It's the road, it's the only way in and out of that hotel. Yeah. And they've said, once the staff were gone from there, you're not coming in or out because it's our road. And the police were called. There was a bit of a argy-bargy, but basically they're in their rights to do that, right? So these security guards then ripped a hole through a hedge so that they could come in and out. So the people then blocked the hole. And they had a delivery the other day, 3 bed vans from Dreams Beds trying to deliver all the bunk beds for these migrants. And they came from Newcastle, 3 lorries, and they were turned away because there were so many people in the street. And it went from, originally 15, 20 people to like, last week there was maybe 1,000 people on the streets. And they blocked all the roads around the hotel. Nobody was allowed in or out. The security guards, the only way they could get food was to ring Just Eat and get it delivered through the hole in the hedge. The people wouldn't let them anywhere near, and they were taking the takeaways and eating it.
Direct action, I love it.
Yeah. So the other night, they basically begged to be let out. The police came there in numbers, and they said, these security guys, they want to leave. If we're going to facilitate them leaving. So everybody just cheered. They were gone. All the tires were down on their vans, and they couldn't get a local garage to fix the tires because nobody will touch them. So they've had to go. They've just gone and left their vans there.
So I found this story, right? The reason Llanelli came up in my feed, probably because I'd just spent a few days in the Gower, which is just round the corner from Llanelli, and that's why it came up on my feed. But I just want to play a little video, it's only a minute long, of how I became aware of what's going on in Llanelli, and maybe you can give a little bit of commentary after it's been played. Just hang on a second.
You don't do nothing with the stop by protesters. Whoa! Marching against finger officer, that's assault. No! Shame on you! You're a disgrace to that uniform! You're a disgrace to that uniform, Inspector! Shameful!
Touching the woman!
Shameful!
Touch the woman up!
Shameful! 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 De-escalate! Now! I've talked it out, pal. We just need... De-escalate! De-escalate! Down! Sit down! Shameful! And all you officers are facilitating it.
So obviously it's quite an emotive video, and it really riled me up. I'm thinking, these police are meant to be, part of our communities, and they're really just the enemies of the people. Tell us a bit about that video and what's going on there.
Right, I couldn't see the video, but I could hear it.
Sorry, mate.
I don't know whether everyone else did. It's okay.
It's a video where that inspector bullies that woman, right, and he puts her over the car and arrests her in a violent manner, and everyone's screaming against them.
Yeah, that's why. After that happened, that was why all the numbers turned up, because the police had turned up. They said this would happen because in Penally Camp, which was another one down here, the police were cool until the migrants moved in. And then they started getting heavy and pushing people around and nicking people. And this is what happened because the other night, Monday, was the day that they were supposed to be moving them in. And that's why the police all of a sudden were in numbers. They were riot police, and they started bullying people and arresting people. And the one woman chained herself to the hole in the fence, and she's been arrested, and she's on savage bail conditions. She's not allowed on social media. She's not allowed anywhere near the hotel, even though she only lives up the road. And they said that was the law that was just brought in for these Just Stop Oil protesters, not being used on them, being used on us.
It makes you think,
You know?
doesn't it, that the just oil protesters were being used to bring in these anti-democratic laws to stop people like you and I from protesting for the real issues, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they've allowed them to run amok so they can have, you know, more restrictions on our freedom. That's just obvious. They're not going to use it on them. And when they get charged with things, they don't even get, half the time they just get let off. The juries have even been letting them off with things. It's just ridiculous, you know? But like, anyway, there's 4 arrests. They've all been charged. But like, there's that many people there now that nothing could come and go. The security are gone. And now the only way that they can use that hotel for migrants is if they take the householders who own that road to court, which will take months, if not years. And that, you know, and they've got to win that case.
That's
and
amazing.
They can't win that case because,
I mean,
but like,
that's a real win for the people, isn't it? And it was probably massively overlooked by the state powers and the people who were involved in this, that they didn't realize that the people who were in those houses owned the road. What an amazing, turn up for the books that was.
Well, if only it was the same at every hotel.
I know.
You know? That's the thing. I mean, it's a unique situation. And what they'll eventually do is they'll find somewhere else to dump them. You know,
well, that's what happened in Knowsley. Is that I spoke to Barry Maguire, good friend of mine, who's being harassed by the anti-terrorism police at the moment, which is outrageous. He's done nothing wrong, completely innocent. And he was at the Knowsley protests. Did you watch the Knowsley protests? Yeah, and that was a big moment. I'm from Knowsley. I'm from Kirby. It's amazing for me to watch that. Kirby people put up an amazing fight, and then to see the state and what the state did afterwards, and they rolled out the playbook, used all of the usual smears against our people for merely standing up and saying no to what's happening in our communities. No one's asking us. We're meant to live in a democracy. What's your take on what's going on in the UK, Joe?
Well, you know, it's quite clearly a plan to flood the whole of Europe with these migrants. They're all men. You know, they keep telling us it's families. They've been saying that in Llanelli. Families. It's not going to be families. We did another protest in Llantwit Major, which is another town near Cardiff. There, we had about 30 people on our demo. We had about 400 people turn out, busting lefties, screaming and shouting at us. Like, I think that these people, the globalists, their plan is eventually they want a one world government, and nationalism stands in their way. And us Europeans, most European countries, they want their sovereignty, they're nationalistic, and we're getting in their way, basically. So they want to flood our countries with people who are rootless, who've got no connection to the land, and basically they'll just be easily controlled. You know, they're literally trying to replace us. And, you know, a lot of people can see now, and I think that they were getting away with it when they were dumping them in the big cities, but now they're going for the smaller places. This is when you'll see the fight back.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it, is that at some point this hidden agenda has to be revealed, and we're at the point where they've been revealed because they have to make their move. They have to go for it now that they've been spotted, and this is what's happening. And it's whether we can rally or mobilize our people in order to put up a serious resistance to push back against this. And that's why it's so important of what you're doing, of what Barry's doing, of what Andy Heisman's doing. It has to start somewhere, and it's great to see it start, you know, you being involved in what's happening in Wales.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, it's not over yet. The camp outside the hotel in Llanelli is still there. The people are not standing down. We're going down on the weekend. Like, I can't go there in a week because I have to work in the valleys, but I go down every weekend and help out. And they're not going to stand down until they're sure that it's resolved, because otherwise they may just sneak them in, you know? But it's, you know, so at the moment where it's a bit of a stalemate, but until the people in Llanelli know that it's definitely over. And the thing is now, it's such a tight-knit community down there that hotel now, it can't go back to being a hotel because nobody will use it.
Yeah.
The only option they've got now is to sell. you know, because these people will not forget this, you know. And
I mean, like the latest news, isn't it? The latest news to come out, right? I think it was this week, which was now that the hotels are full, the government wants the British people to stop bringing the asylum seekers, migrants into their own homes. Now, obviously, all of the lefties who are saying refugees are welcome, they're not going to be taking any refugees in their own homes. Did you see that on the news this week? And what are your thoughts on the whole hypocrisy of the people who are traitors to us, traitors to their own people, fighting against us? Without those people fighting against their own, is that they wouldn't have half the power they do. But now the government has said they've got to house Afghanis themselves.
They're just defenders, you know. They're defenders of the narrative. They are basically tools of this globalist cabal that's trying to take over the world. And they see themselves as some sort of rebels. But they're pushing in the same direction as every major corporation, all the banks, the World Economic Forum, NATO. They're pushing in the same direction as them, but they see themselves as rebels. Yeah, I just don't understand. And they won't be taking refugees into their houses. They want us to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future they didn't start saying, if you're on benefits, you'll have to take one or you lose your benefit, and start forcing people to take them into their houses. You know, you know, I don't think it'll get that far, because I think we're on the verge here now of serious disorder, because when we were down in Penally camp, there was protests outside, a few hundred people all the time, and it was all peaceful until the migrants moved in. And then when there was only a few of them, they were saying, oh, we want to be friends, just through the fence talking. And then when there was 200 of them in there, they were snarling at people, they were doing all this. Do you know what I mean? And if that happened in Llanelli, there would be a riot. Because those people are not messing about.
Is that if it's women and children, then they've, you know, refugees, but you know, how can men, fighting age men, be refugees? They should be sent back to the country they came from and go and fight your war. Why is it our problem? Why are we having to deal with their issues? I'll take women and children, no problem, but even then it's got to be under strict rules. But we're not taking men as fighting age men as refugees. Go and fight your own country. Go and fight your own situation instead of bringing all your problems to us.
Well, they're not even running away from war. Most of them are from countries where there is no war. And like I said earlier to you, that one of the hotels he was offered $500,000 to hand his hotel over. And he said, I'll do it, but only if it's families. And they said, we've got no families. It's all men.
It's all men.
You know, men don't run away from wars and leave their wife and kids behind.
Of course not.
You know? And if they want us to believe that, then that's how stupid they think we are.
Well, what kind of refugees leave their wife and children? I mean, that's what kind of men do that?
Exactly. It's a joke. It's a joke that they even expect us to believe it, you know?
Yeah. Okay, just going to wrap this up in a second, but Joe, so you've got a different take on Welsh nationalism, and it's where I align as well, is that, you know, we've been indoctrinated to think that the Welsh, the Scots, the Irish, the English should all be opposed to each other, and we've got this sectarian, you know, opposition. But the truth is the opposite. We all need to start pulling together, all of the people in the British Isles, don't we?
That's right. Well, the reason I call myself Welsh nationalist is because the Welsh nationalists down here traditionally, they hate the English, but they're all for flooding us with migrants. And they're saying there's a whole housing shortage in Wales because of the English buying second homes. But that's okay. Let's have 2,000 migrants from Africa. You know, I just don't understand it. They are not nationalists. And it's like the Scottish as well, Scottish National Party. You know, they refer to them as Scottish nationalists. They're not nationalists. They're globalists. And it's the same down here, Plaid Cymru and Labour. You know, I'm a real nationalist. I love my country. I'm not far right. And I don't think that we should accept. People say, oh, yeah, I'm far right. We should just say, that's just a label. I'm not far right. I am a Welsh person. I love my country. I love my people. And I don't want it to be destroyed.
You want it to survive. Me too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much, Joe, for coming on. I appreciate that. And hopefully we can speak again and stay updated on this ongoing story. If people want to find you, the work you're doing, and what's going on in Wales as part of this resistance against this obvious invasion by globalists against us, the British people, where can they find you?
I've got 2 pages on Telegram. One is Welsh Nationalist, the other is PA Wales. And I'm on YouTube as Joe Marsh. I got a load of videos on there. I normally stream, but I've been arrested. I was arrested the other week for some hate speech. But I've not spoken publicly about it yet because once it's resolved, I'll explain what's happened. But I'm not streaming at the moment, but there's plenty of videos on there. And the main page I got is on Telegram with Welsh Nationalists. And I've been putting loads of stuff about Llanelli. So as there's any updates, they'll be on there.
Fantastic, Joe. Really appreciate you coming on, chatting to you. Great to meet you. Great to speak to you. And keep up the good work. And hopefully we'll speak again soon. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate. Okay, cool. That was great. Really enjoyed speaking to Joe. Hopefully we can do that again, bring more guests in.